So I'm not an expert when I think, being in the same session as Gilad and Ken O'Keefe, I think, oh dear, out of your depth there, aren't you? However, what I will do with you is share my experiences of the use of accusations of anti-Semitism, which I have suffered, like a lot of other people here. I was on the executive of Palestine Solidarity Campaign for 3 years, and I'm still a member. I'm still a member, Gilad. I haven't been expelled, and I'll explain why later. And now I work for an organisation called Deir, Yassin Remembered, which I will talk about later. Right, now, and I can't tell you the truth about anti-Semitism, I can't tell you the truth about anyone, but I will seek it. We will all seek the truth. Right, now, could somebody give me a definition of anti-Semitism?
Against Palestinians?
Against Palestinians? Any more?
It's a general term of insult of anyone who questions the state.
Oh, that's a nice one.
A proper definition of anti-Semitism is somebody who loathes or hates Jews just because they are Jews. That is the only definition of anti-Semitism.
The practical definition is everyone who is hated by the Jews.
I was coming to that one, yeah. Anybody else want to come up with one?
Basically, it's any criticism of Jews.
Any criticism of Jews, right?
That's Zionism's version.
Of Zionist Jews?
No, that's Zionism's version.
Well, yes. Yes, I'm not so sure about that. Right. Any others?
Semitic races are not just, or perhaps not even at all, bad, aren't they? I mean, it's more...
So anti-Semitism is applied to non-Semites and not to Semites. So if you're hostile to Arabs, you're not anti-Semitic, as you say?
No, I was just thinking in terms that, like, Palestinians from that area, they're a Semitic race, so...
Yes. Yes. Yes, okay. So, anybody else got there's some very varied ones there. Following up a bit of Alan's, I've got some, forget there. Wikipedia is anti-Semitism is prejudice, hatred of, or discrimination against Jews for reasons connected to their Jewish heritage. A person who holds such positions is called an anti-Semite. It is a form of racism. The US State Department is quite similar to Alan's. Hatred towards Jews, individually and as a group, that can be attributed to the Jewish religion and or ethnicity. That's from the US State Department in 2005. And in 2005, interesting it's the same year, the EU, the European Monitoring Centre on Racism and Xenophobia, also included such manifestations of anti-Semitism, which can be towards Jews, Jewish or non-Jewish individuals, which rather puzzled me. Such manifestations could also target the State of Israel, conceived as a Jewish collectivity. I've got one that's no more satisfactory than the other that I submitted to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in 2012. Racism, anti-Jewish prejudice and Islamophobia shall be defined as a belief that inherent different traits in human racial groups, or Jews or Muslims respectively, both as individuals and collectively, justify discrimination. These terms apply especially to the practice or advocacy of discrimination of a pernicious nature, i.e. which harms these groups, which we'd rather left out, but you have to intend harm for it to be anti-Semitism. They all have difficulties, but it's just the range of ideas. So there's the idea that it's a form of racism, which some of those are, it's the connection to Israel, and its Jewish religion or ethnicity. And my last one was actually Gilad's, which is that an anti-Semite is somebody Jews hate.
But if you criticise Israel, that's anti-Semitism as well.
That's right.
That's what I said, yes,
Oh, yes.
criticism of Israel. is counted because it is against Jews, and there's a much bit adding to that, which is also from the EU. It can be said to be, as it's applying double standards by requiring of Israel a behaviour not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation, or holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the State of Israel. So, on that one, anybody here who's an anti-Semite? No, it's not one. Yes, quite a few. I'm officially an
anti-Semitic, but
anti-Semite.
I'm not anti-Jewish. I may be anti-Semitic, but I'm not anti-Jewish.
I'm anti-Jewish, I'm not anti-Semite, because the Semites are the Palestinian people.
But I'm just anti-Zionist, anti-Tom, not against Jews.
Yeah, but I'm saying on one of those definitions.
People who are just ethnically Jews, like Gill Kaffash says.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
Zionism and Talmudism.
Yeah, that's right.
It's supremacist.
But on one of those definitions, that makes you an anti-Semite
Yes.
if you're opposing Israel. I like the idea that they hold Israel to a higher standard than other democratic states, when you consider both what they're like and what they don't hold Israel to. Yes.
Can I just ask whether in all of those definitions they keep the hyphen in anti-Semite? Because I always take it out unless it means against the Semites. Because it changes meaning.
I didn't read this out from the Wikipedia, but that makes the point. It makes the point that a lot of Jews, people giving help, and this Wikipedia article, have a look at it on anti-Semitism, because it's written by Jews. It's quite obvious it's written by Jews, and it's actually quite interesting in lots of ways. Is that the very reason for taking out the hyphen is so it applies only to Jews. That it's a term that came in the 19th century to be applied to Jews. Semite doesn't apply to Jews. Semite is a description of language group and the cultures associated with that language group, and would have until Hebrew was adopted in Israel, and lots of Israelis learned Hebrew. It would have been, it would not have applied to most of the Jews we know.
Can I just suggest, in a way, it's almost like this technology or this vocabulary, it doesn't belong to us. It's almost like once we grasp the kind of the nuttiness of this, it's like it's their armory, you know?
Yes, exactly.
It's like we can argue the toss on how many angels are dancing on the pinhead, but we know, you know, hyphens or no hyphens, we all know what the story is. Really.
Yes, on that, I don't argue about anti-Semitism being applied to Jews and not to Semitic people, because I agree. I think it's the general usage. You've introduced my last definition of anti-Semite, and an anti-Semite is someone who tries to define anti-Semitism. Why? Because the unknown and the unidentifiable is more powerful than that which can be challenged. If you can't challenge the accusation of anti-Semitism because you don't know what anti-Semitism is, that makes it a more powerful weapon than if you can discuss it. So the discussion of what anti-Semitic means is itself anti-Semitic, because it's reducing the power. This is when I go on to what I'm going to describe about the experience of the use of anti-Semitism as a weapon. And what I'm looking at is not, I think, what we've been discussing quite a lot up until now, which is corporations, governments, media, but a group or groups who would very much be identified as being challenging those groups themselves. They will be against the establishment, and they will be against Israel, and definitely call themselves anti-Zionist. But I want to look at their use of the accusation of anti-Semitism, because it is there. and I'll just say, because I know some of us are very well aware of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, but the majority of people aren't. So this was an organisation, it was founded in 1982, and it is a major organisation, or not, if not the major organisation in this country for supporting the Palestine cause, called Palestine Solidarity. I will be using two terms, PSC, or Palestine Solidarity Campaign, and the Palestine Solidarity Movement. And when I say movement, I'm including lots more organisations. So PSC was founded in 1982. It almost tore itself apart in disagreements about Oslo, and it was revived, or taken over, in 2000 by what I call the hard left. And the hard left displayed their usual characteristics. Now somebody may challenge me on this if you want to, which is factionalism, paranoia, central control, infiltration, and anti-this, that and the other. So you're anti-sexism, anti-racist, anti-homophobic, you name it, they're anti it. And PSC, under their guidance, grew, and it did achieve some political prominence. It was quoted, the mainstream media took notice of it, it got access to parliamentarians at Parliament, it even had an interview in the Foreign Office, and it got well into with the support of trade unions. So that was the situation, it was growing in that situation when I joined in 2001. And I flung myself into it, in the way that I do, and thought this was great. I had one or two little things beginning, including the reaction to Alan Hart's book, which was, oh dear, oh dear, what's this about? Which quite puzzled me. However, this became clear in 2005 when Paul Yassin published his article, The Holocaust Wars. Oh, what are we going to do about this? Oh dear, dear, dear. And I was on the executive at the time. What are we going to do? So I said, well, let's read it. But this was quite a revolutionary suggestion. Let's read it. So a member, not me, was assigned to read The Holocaust Wars, and came back and said, yes, it's anti-Semitic, all right. And I said, well, yes, I expect you would find it anti-Semitic, wouldn't you? Oh, what's up? Oh, well, no, dear, that was it. Quite interesting that during one of these discussions, one member of the executive said, well, Paul has been a good friend to PSC. He might deny this now, but Paul has been a good friend to PSC, and his accusers, who were Jews, have done nothing but criticise PSC all the time.
By the way, do you want to explain that Paul is also a Jew?
No.
No? Okay.
Yes, if you like. Paul is a Jew, but we'll go on why we always have to mention that. Why do we always have to mention it? Right.
This is not biased.
This is a good question.
Sorry?
It shows he's not biased.
Well, yes, he is biased. I'll tell you. We've had many an argument, Paul and I. Right. So, so that began. I was then marked as being unreliable. But I didn't resign, and I haven't resigned. But I didn't get onto the EC soon after that. And this attacks became greater and greater. I think it was in 2005 there was a resolution at the AGM about dealing with anti-Semitism, not defined, and having a quiet word. You know, we will talk to them, and all sorts of racism is included. And I maintained that you should not do this. If you're going to do that, you must have an open hearing. And this was not at all popular. And then in 2011, a website, a blog, and I'm very ignorant about all these things, called Harry's Place, which is greatly, violently Zionist, began an attack upon PSC. and it named lots of anti-Semites in positions of power in PSC. And I was named as one of them. And I was actually a little bit offended because they had hardly anything against me. And I thought, well, really, they couldn't have done better than that. And PSC reacted in a sort of PSC way, which was to, oh, well, we must deny this. What can we do about this? And so the PSC executive member responsible for the branch of which I was secretary at the time, which was Camden PSC. Oh, Jill, you don't have any of this anti-Semitic stuff on your website, do you, Jill? I said, oh no, we don't have any on ours, which is true, because we didn't have anything on it. And also, I was very strict about what went on. It just was notices of meetings and things like that. And so they began the purge, which I call the Great Loyalty Oath Crusade, because I was a great reader of Catch-22. Does anybody know this Great Loyalty Oath Crusade in Catch-22? That book, that anti-war book? No? Oh, we practically crippled the US Air Force because everybody, one character was accused of being a communist, and he was obvious he was a communist because he didn't deny it before he was accused of being a communist. So, and this spread and spread and spread, and this was what was happening. And there was a branch forum of PSC, which is a meeting, a branch forum was a meeting of all the branches together without any authority. When we got up, or people got up and confessed to their sins of posting. Now, one of the things that happened was that somebody would post on the branch website an article, a very interesting article. And the article that they posted, wherever they got it from, it might have links. And sometimes these links went to things like Gilad Atzmon. So they all pledged to be very careful about what went on the website. It mustn't be anything that had a link to anything that could be remotely thought of to be anti-Semitic. And I was asked to resign from secretaryship of Camden PSC. Now, Nahida was blocked on the Liverpool PSC.
And Nahida is a Palestinian.
And Nahida is a Palestinian. And quite extraordinary thing, there's one person, Ellie, who had been on the first Free Gaza boat. I think she's very eminent in the Free Gaza boat movement. And she had posted something suggesting that the Norwegian, and the name goes because I'm so old, the Norwegian who massacred so many people, might have had some connection with Mossad.
Andres Breivik.
Breivik, that's her name. That he might have had some connection with Israeli groups. Anti-Semitic. Oh dear, what a pity she's done that. And this was the situation. A great memory, which I'll just give here to Alan, was Betty Hunter, who was General Secretary of the PSC for a long time, and she was sitting near me, and she was yelling at me, "The Holocaust is a fact! It's a fact! It's a fact!" And I thought, because she had told me, and Alan was confirming this earlier today, Betty Hunter never reads anything, never reads a book. So how she knew it was a fact, I don't know. That was a fact. So this was the Great Loyalty Oath Crusade. And somebody, this is the bit I love best, somebody got up and said, "No, we've won against these Zionists because we've shown that we're determined that we won't have any anti-Semitism." So they took all the information from this Zionist website, chased all the people it named, and tried to get rid of them, and that was winning the battle against Zionism. And this was this terrible fear that they had of being accused of being anti-Semitic. Fear in a group like that, who were great conspiracy theorists, I must say. So that was it. They also were pursuing an ex-president of PSC, Francis Clark Lowes, many of you will know, and they decided to expel him. I said to I think it was Secretary or member of the EC at the time, Francis is going to appeal to the AGM. I'm a very, very constitutional man. That's why I like trade unionists, because they're very constitutional minded. So I'm sure most of you are not, but it's quite useful actually. So I said, yes, he's going to appeal at the AGM. Oh, no, we didn't think he'd do that. We didn't think what he'd do if he didn't resign. I said, well, he's going to appeal, I can tell you that. I said, and you try and expel me, and I shall appeal. And they never have tried to expel me, because one victory we had at the AGM was that the AGM, which is quite a big meeting, decided that really they had enough attachment to the principle of free speech and justice, that you don't expel someone without allowing them to appeal. The EC tried at that meeting to get rid of the right of appeal. And they've not touched me since. I've not had anything to do with them, but they haven't stopped my membership. I don't think they've stopped Francis out. I don't think they've got round to sending back his standing order, cancelling his standing order. So that was that situation. Just because, we're doing okay, aren't we, for time? Not too bad. Is about an example of anti-Semitism, which is not used as a weapon so much, but shows some of it. Well, I think it might have been. I was involved in a group which put on a very successful event called Alternative Festival of Nine Carols. And these were alternative words to traditional carols. And we also had readings. And there were 3 Jews and me doing it. And I said I will do the readings, and I didn't let them look at them, which was quite good. Anyway. But the one that they use quite a lot is based on 5 minutes. Oh, I have to stop this then. It was the main thing that I was going. I'll leave that one. That was, I thought I had a bit more time. So then I moved on to work with Deir Yassin Remembered, and Deir Yassin Remembered was in 2000 when it began its work here. Was the first organisation, which non-Palestinian organisation, which looked at 1948. The earliest that most pro-Palestinian groups would go back to was 1967, and their main chant was "End the occupation." The idea that you thought, well, Israel is not legitimate in any way, it's not been legitimate since 1948, was anathema. You just didn't talk about that. So I began to work for the UIR. I'm going to have to hurry it up. And this part that I'm talking about is how you resist this accusation. And some examples. And Gilad, if you would just briefly say what your publishers did about your book when they received these accusations.
My last book was published by Zero Books. As many of Zero Books writers were associated with the radical left, you may say, and when they realized that my book is just about to be published, a guy called Richard Seymour, who is also a famous radical left blogger who write under blog called Lenin Tom. They managed to collate 21 writers, which is more than half of the authors on this imprint, who insisted that if I am published, they would resign or would leave the publishing house. I really didn't expect the publishing to stand up for me within hours. I had another publisher. The book was edited and was read. Maybe it was already printed actually. But to my surprise, my publisher is a young philosopher. He read my book. He loved it, and he told them that they could basically fuck off.
Yes, those are the words I would use myself. I think they're very good words to use against this accusation. I was going to call on Gabby, but I don't think we've got time now. So we're going to have to be very...
We've got till 1:30.
Ah, you've got to... So I can't see, yes.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Right. And Gabby, I won't have to... Gabby also took much the same reaction when a conference in Freiburg and also went to law. This is if you fight back, they tend to collapse.
Yeah.
But they do it underhand a lot. That's the problem. Now I'm going to face you with something. Can we get that up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is an email I received. Have a look at it. What's your... What?
Shall I open it?
Yeah. Not yet. What's your reaction? Jews and money. How do you feel?
They go together.
I feel at home.
You feel at home? Yes. Anybody feel, oh my God? Nobody feels, oh my God, what's that? Yes.
It's just highly connected with all of the big...
It's highly...
connected with all the big banks. It's not running. Biggest banks, Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
I mean, every chairman on the Federal Reserve Board. I mean,
yes. And actually, just don't want at the moment. You're quite right. This we won't have time, but it's quite yes. That's a reaction we'll bring up. Your reaction, you've just seen that. You have no. You think it's about Jews and money. So your reaction is that's stating a truth.
Yeah.
Yes. That this is a sort of general reaction.
No, I find it quite shocking. And
you find it shocking.
And quite as if it's going to sound really nasty. I wouldn't want to read it.
Yes, I mean this is a very general reaction. Anybody else who finds it shocking?
No, it's shocking that Christians and money or Muslims and money.
Yes, let's have over here.
I think it's connecting the dots. Jews and money, the Red Shield, connected fiat cash, way back centuries ago.
I think
No, can we just carry on?
I think it's trying to detract from the issue by connecting two things.
You think it's distracting?
It's like
It's distracting. Right, not that you know what the issue is yet.
No.
Right, now could we open it, Tyler?
Yeah. Let's see here. Just trying to figure this out.
Should just do it normally, shouldn't it?
There we go. It just took a
Yes, it's a bit big. Now you can see it. Can we make it small enough for people to see the whole of it?
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that good?
Okay. Now read it.
Jill, I can't, where it says the bit underneath the mother and child, perhaps if you read that out.
Here.
Yeah, oh, it's like it's bigger now, yes. I
Yeah.
can see it.
Yes. Because it's a sort of impact it makes, I want you to see it all at once. Get some reactions to that. What do you think it's saying?
That the Jews would have found the money.
Well, Jews would have found the money, and was that being bad or good?
Oh, that'd be good, but not
Yeah, it would have been good.
for
Right.
them, but not good for...
Anybody, any other interpretation of it?
Yes, they wouldn't have got the money. Like during the questions, they wouldn't have got the money.
They wouldn't have had it.
No. Because it's just like asking for something very abstract.
Yeah.
What they want.
They did get the money, of course.
Well,
Right. I mean, not necessarily for drama, but...
there would certainly been some bargaining over 30,000.
Right. What this was about, and you'll see we've done blocking things out, is that DYR commissioned a play about Deir, the massacre, on April the 9th, 1948, and paid for the script. And we're setting about trying to get the money to get this produced. We've got the script by this point, and it's good. And published this because we were fed up with no reactions to our appeals. And said if it had been Jews, we'd have got the money, because Paul is Jewish, yes, and I have the I've had experience of seeing anti-Zionist Jews really putting their hands in their pockets for Palestine cause, and also working very hard for it. So the basis was that Jews contribute to their causes. They understand the need for money for your cause. But it was seen as being horrifically anti-Semitic. The authors asked to withdraw, that's why they've been blocked out, asked us to have no more to do with it. We got resignations, lots of us. Paul, you're trying to say something. No. Now DYR is now not, well, we haven't sorted out that yet, connected with this play, which I hope will go on. I'm hoping now that the anti-Zionist Jews will come in to protect the authors and find the money, because they're better at it than we are.
It may even go on in Yiddish.
And the play will go on next year, and I hope so. But it was, to me, quite a revelation just how deep this conditioning is, that people immediately, Jews and money, this is terrible. And didn't read, or if they read the email, didn't realise that we were not accusing them. One person I respect very much said we should have said Zionist, or Zionist, because not all Jews, this is the old one, not all Jews support Israel. Well, I'm sorry, I don't think. But however, we meant Jews. I meant Jews.
What are you sorry about? What are you sorry about when you just made that statement?
About saying, I'm saying I'm sorry, I meant Jews, not Zionist Jews.
Sorry, can you explain that?
The Jews I was thinking of were actually anti-Zionist Jews.
Yes, right.
So I meant Jews, not Zionists.
Right.
Zionist Jews are themselves basically anti-Zionist Zionists.
Yes, so it was quite right. So now DYR is left in the situation of not having this play. We have been, DYR was nearly destroyed by the anti-Zionist Jews because of Paul Yassin. So it was an ad hominem argument because he was part of DYR. DYR, you could comb through its website and its activities and really not find anything that could even, say it was anti-Semitic. However, then we revived it in 2012. 2013, we brought over a Deir Yassin massacre survivor and toured and had. We're looking now to 2014 to bring our next one over. Because we have to, because they're all very old, of course. Well, as old as me. And bring them over, and hoping that we will get even more commemorations. We say all you need is a room, even 2 people, some candles, and a camera. And then you've got your commemoration of the massacre of Deir Yassin in 1948, which is a symbol of the injustice to the Palestinians. And we will go on commemorating it, but we want it to go more and more people to be aware of it and to commemorate it. So I'm saying, if anybody's interested, just speak to us, and then we'd love to organise it and bring you a survivor to address your group. So that's experience of anti-Semitism and how people fight it and how you can resist it. So I think I've just about done it now. So thank you. I was hoping to incorporate, I have incorporated people in it. I don't know if anybody wants to reply.
We should have mentioned self-hating Jews, because people like Bill Zatzman and others, you know.
I have on self-hating Jews.
That's what they call them, isn't it?
Self-hating Jews. One of the justifications anti-Zionist Jews have is we protect you from accusations of anti-Semitism. And it reminds me of when I was quite young, walking through a field with a young dog, through a field of cows. And the dog was there, of course, the dog is there, it's a protector. But this was a young dog and it was frightened. and it ran to us, and all the cows came towards it. And it was much more frightening than not having that protection. In fact, you get worse accusations if you have Jews in your number, because they are traitors to the tribe.
Can I just say, do you not think in a way that we demean ourselves by engaging in this sort of ridiculous, absurd dialogue? Because I think Mark Twain who said something like, never argue with a fool, they'll just drag you down to their level and beat you with it.
But we need to expose what they're saying.
We need to expose, but it was almost like Gilad put it most succinctly. Like, if I'm confronted with any of that, I think the only appropriate response is fuck off.
Yes,
it's appropriate for us who know.
Yeah.
This conference is also for people who don't know about it, so it's about teaching them.
Okay.
No, but
In fact, I could do all the examples of saying fuck off, which I think is the proper response. But one of the problems which I didn't go into, and Tahra's got experience of it, is they don't always accuse you. They go to your venue provider, etc., etc. It's behind your back. And then, so people need to hear about those who do say fuck off, so they have the courage to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what you said is extremely useful. It's not just the Jewish Palestinian issue that suffers from similar things, so that's an extreme example. But the same sort of thing goes on in other organisations. When I went through something similar with the Esperanto organisation, I documented absolutely everything. What I was searching for desperately and not finding was other people who'd been through something similar. So if I'd had your story in 2005, that would have helped me enormously, or if you'd helped my story when you went through it.
Yes,
So
it is.
I think we need to bring all this documentation together.
I don't think we've got time for Gabby to tell us. Gabby is particularly, Gabby being a German, in Germany, has even more trouble than we have here.
This is a long story, Gina. I don't know.
Well, it's up to
5 minutes if you want to share. You're really welcome.
Okay.
Do you want to come to the front for people in there?
Yeah, because this is 5 times worse in Germany.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. So I'm coming from Freiburg, South Germany, and I am the co-founder of a non-profit organization which is called Café Palestine Freiburg. And we started our work 3.5 years ago, and we decided that we want to have kind of monthly events, let's say talks, lectures, exhibitions, film screenings, any kind of things that are dealing with the conflict of Palestine and Israel. And we started in May 2010, and in November 2010 we plan to have an exhibition which is called Nakba exhibition, and it's a kind of a wandering exhibition that is going through many German cities. And we were supposed to have this exhibition in the city library in Freiburg, which is close to the synagogue also. And 10 days before the opening of the exhibition, the mayor of Freiburg, the very high mayor of Freiburg, he prohibited the exhibition. He said that the reason for it is that it is too one-sided. We are only showing the Palestinian side. And we went to court. We took the mayor of Freiburg to court, to the administrative court, and we won. So we could have this exhibition. It happened, and it was the most successful exhibition that this library ever had. 1 year later, no, it was even Gilad. I met you in 2010 in November. Just shortly after that, we had a solidarity movement conference in Stuttgart, and Gilad was not supposed to be an official speaker, but he came to have an address. And there was a scandal after that as well. People are just taking quotes out of context. I don't know, it's very rude what is happening. And I decided that Gilad has to come to Freiburg and to speak. And very, very shortly after I published that, people started to put pressure on us that we should not collaborate with Gilad, because he's an anti-Semite and everybody knows all the accusations. And I decided that I really don't want to let ourselves be put under pressure. And we did this event. It was very successful. We have also video of this talk. And we also decided that we are going to have a conference in Germany to talk about freedom of speech, because I think it's a very crucial issue. So we invited Gilad, we invited Ken O'Keefe, we invited Alan Hart, we invited also a good friend of Alan Hart, Hayo Meyer, who is Jewish, who is a Holocaust survivor, and some other speakers. And the pressure started again as soon as we published what we are going to plan, who are the speakers. I got threats from English groups, anti-racist. I got, what's his name? Greenstein? Tony Greenstein. He's supposed to be famous here in England. And Hayo Meyer, for example, he withdrew, and another speaker withdrew. We found new speakers, and we had a very successful conference. And in the same time, in Freiburg, there is a group which is called Anti-Deutsche. And it's a very strange name. I cannot explain you why they call themselves Anti-Deutsche, but they are definitely very pro-Israeli. And they created a kind of another conference which took place in the same time as our conference, together with the German Israeli Society. And they call it Thementage Antisemitismus, which means topic days or days of topic with anti-Semitism. They came to our conference, they made a demonstration, and since then they did it on a yearly basis, this anti-Semitism event in Freiburg. Then what happened next is that Gilad's book was supposed to be translated to into German, and I wanted to have him giving a talk at Freiburg University, together with Norton Medzwinski from America. And I also invited a history professor of Freiburg University to have a discussion. The history professor was very, very happy about it, and I sent him the book weeks in advance. And we agreed upon the topic and the date and everything, and then 3 days before the discussion was supposed to happen, he cancelled, saying that Gilad's book is anti-Semitic and that we should not deal with him. We will put a lot of harm on ourselves. And he cancelled, and he didn't come back. I offered him, because Gilad was in Germany at that time, that we can meet and we can discuss, and then he can still decide, but he refused. So we did this event with Norton and Gilad, and it was very successful as well. We have it on the net also. Then I wanted to have a French professor, Professor Christophe Aubella from Paris, who is working very, very frequently in Gaza as a doctor. And he was supposed to come in December, which is last year, I think. And I applied again for a room at the University of Freiburg. I have to apply, they have to allow or not. And then all of a sudden they refused. And I thought, there's something wrong here. I really don't understand it, but I had already my suspicion. So I asked the university, why can we not get a room now? And they answered us that they are fearing that we are going to be anti-democratic, racist, and don't know what all the accusations were. And we decided after a second letter that we will take them to court again. And we took them to court. And in the official statement of the university, after, let's say, 2 or 3 exchanges, I found out that it is all again about Gilad Atzmon. It is not about this French professor who was supposed to be Hamas friend and don't know what else were the official accusations in the first line. But after a while we realized that it is again because of Gilad. So in the court, this history professor, he appeared together with the lawyer of the university and the person who had written these letters. And the history professor started to talk really bad things, and all the arguments that the university had put in the reasoning why they don't want to give us a room were completely upside down. It was a complete new strategy of the university, but the court, they didn't accept it, because they should have written all these reasons from the beginning and not just afterwards in the court hearing itself. And we won again, so we were quite successful.
I think we'll probably have to stop there, won't we?
If there's any questions for Gill,
Yes. In Germany, because I go there every year, what risk is there of Gilad being arrested for?
No risk.
Is that?
No.
That's the difference.
I'm in Germany all the time.
You are?
Yeah.
And you survive, you don't...
This is a big question, but I never been stopped or anything.
Okay.
Like Zionism, if Jews want to go somewhere to live, they've got a state the size of Switzerland, an autonomous state called Berabadjan on the Soviet Chinese border.
They have. Most people don't know that, do they?
Yeah.
That they were assigned land. I know we are running quite late altogether, so I'll say thank you, and do remember those two words, fuck off.